guys talked a lot about the culture. So I'm a newbie into this industry. Can you talk about the culture that you guys were?
Well,
Woo! Okay,
yeah,
not that
boy,
one.
Talking projection here. Whoa! All right, let's ease this up slowly towards the audio source.
There you go, you
Okay,
got
so
it.
we're in the right range.
There you
There we
go.
go. Sorry, boys and girls. I know we all have a limited number of eardrums here. So when we think about culture, I would break it down into two different aspects, right? There is culture. What is culture, right? And particularly in the context of cannabis, how is cultural work different from political work, right? So political work is about getting laws passed. It's about getting regulations written. It's about getting petitions signed. It's about political campaigns. It's about demonstrations. It's about specific issues, right? Specific changes we want made in the law. Culture, right, in its broadest sense, is all the stuff that people care about, that forms their opinions, that is not part of the political process, right? So, how is cannabis being portrayed in the popular media? How is it being portrayed in films? How is it being portrayed in television shows? What kind of books are being written about cannabis? What kinds of songs are being written about cannabis, right? So that's politics and culture in general. Then there's this other little thing that sort of sits off to the side that we call cannabis culture, right? And cannabis culture is this very distinctive, vibrant, eccentric, eclectic, colorful culture that has grown up around this plant. And you can see it all over the world. You can see it in reggae music and Rastafarian culture. You can see it in the psychedelic music rock explosion that happened here. You can see it in hip hop. You can trace it all the way back to jazz, right? When people consume different psychoactive substances, it has different effects on the way that they live their lives and engage with each other. And, as we have seen people that have made cannabis a distinctive part of their lives, it's exhibited in the kind of art that they make, the kind of creations that they create.
I was going to say, so the culture that you grew up with, so you were in the 70s, you've seen this industry, this cannabis culture evolve over the decades. What's been consistent?
Well, what's consistent in cannabis culture is a sense of kindness, right? A respect for creativity over conformity.
Respect
right?
for Earth.
A respect for the earth, respect for nature, right? Tolerance, right? Being inclusive, right? Being fair and being just.
Some of that's really scary to people, you know?
I don't think so much.
Yeah.
So so you're also the president of ARC.
I am.
Correct. So how did that whole thing come about? And about time, how did you feel about this industry now evolving into the current place?
So I feel good about this industry as it's evolving. I'm glad that the industry is here, right? Okay, going to ArcView. Why did we start ArcView? When Obama got elected, myself and my partner Troy Dayton, who at that time was a high net worth fundraiser for the Marijuana Policy Project, looked at each other and said, dude, we got like 4 or maybe 8 years to get this thing so far down the road that nobody can roll it back, right? Because we knew, we were students of American history, we knew that after Trump, or after Obama, right, we were likely to see something that was quite ugly, right? So we were likely to see something that was ugly after Obama. We knew that. We didn't know quite how ugly it would be, but we knew that. So how are we going to do that, right? And it was evident that if everybody in the cannabis industry looked like Steve DeAngelo and had a personal history like Steve DeAngelo, and somebody like Trump got elected, all of the progress that we've made could be rolled back.
Right? Oh, you're
right?
cute. I think you look good.
So, so what we did is we made a very conscious decision to reach out to the mainstream business community, to encourage them to come into cannabis, to invest in it, to create companies, to bring professionals to it, to build companies. And we believed that if we could put the the engine of free enterprise and hook the engine of free enterprise to the chain. We believe that if we could hook the engine of free enterprise and profit making to the train of social justice, that we could make enough change that it wouldn't be rolled back on us. That's why we did it.
Right on. Thank you for doing it.
So the new people that are coming into this industry, what can you say to them? The people that are sitting on the sidelines, they're looking at this industry, they want to invest, there's still a stigma attached. What are you telling those people?
Well, welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
welcome to the crazy the world of this. Yet, it's better than it was last year. It's better than it was 2 years ago. It gets better as we go along. You're interested. Yes, there's risk. Anything this much on the edge, anything that is, we're on the leading edge of this. This will 20 years. We will be talking about Steve DeAngelo. We're already talking about you, but jump in now. It's exciting. It's good. It's good for society. Create change. That's what I would say.
Well, this is really the golden period for cannabis investing, and I've been saying that for a little while, so unfortunately, we're beginning to see the very beginning of the end of the golden period, okay? And the reason it's a golden period is precisely because of the risk, okay? Right now, under federal law in the United States, cannabis remains a controlled substance, Schedule 1. That is going to change. It will change probably within the course of the next 2 to 3 years. And when it does change, you're going to see the entry of the biggest institutions and corporations in the United States of America, the biggest such institutions in the world will be entering the cannabis industry. And when they do, they're not going to build the companies that they run. They're going to buy the companies that they run. So there's going to be a wave of mergers and acquisitions. If you want to get the lift that's going to come from those mergers and acquisitions, get in now.
What's your biggest fear having all these big players, especially the pharmaceutical companies, the pharmaceutical giants coming in?
Loss of understanding of what type of medicine this is. This is a medicine based in holistic thought. Pharmaceutical is based in allopathic thought, the thought that you get sick from something outside, and so you need something outside, you take a pill, and it makes you better. That's allopathic thought. If the pharmaceutical industry can wrap its head around holistic thought, that a human being's health is the whole body, that's what we learn from cannabis. That's what, and the how we've been checking out what the medicinal is very limited right now. So the more research we have into the cannabis, the more we start to understand holistic health. So it's a change in our health ideas. It's the change. We're making this movement, and it's big because right now our healthcare industry is set up where you go to a doctor, he tells you, oh, you need this pill for this, and that's how we've all been doing, and we've got an opioid crisis because of this. We've got all of this. So the pharmaceutical industry has to change its thinking, and we will see if that happens or if they just become separate. But that's the only way that they're ever going to, or they'll just kill it. It won't work.
Right. You talked a lot earlier about changing the mindset, the perception of marijuana and cannabis, and doing that through TV, movies, because, like you said, it's been portrayed as this gangster type of a substance, and you would think, that Hollywood would try to do a better job of clearing the name of cannabis, right?
Sometimes it takes Hollywood a little while.
Yeah, they do what's easy. Yeah, wouldn't that be reefer wellness? Oh my God.
So that's something that could really be funny, right?
Yeah.
When I was talking earlier about my evaluation matrix for cannabis content is, do you help me deconstruct stigma or are you reinforcing stigma? I think a Reefer Goodness movie would be a brilliant and crazy funny thing to do, man. You should write that up and start shopping it around. Yes.
There you go.
Well, I'll say, you and I met at the ArcView group the day that Oakland won the championship after the last huge event 2 years ago in Marriott. You and I were standing next to each other. I'm a newbie. And they said, introduce yourself to the person next to you. And it was me. So it was joy.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, we were talking dogs. Might bring a little.
Okay.
So, one thing you said to me as a newbie, coming out, two things. I've heard you emphasize to people, come out, share with your kids. So I've done that. For 30 years, I've been suppressed. In my little town of Folsom, California, because I'm a business owner. Right? The city council members are slowly now hearing from me. They know I was that guy. I normally don't look like this, but I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
Right? And so you told me, take your time in investing, and as well as coming out. Right? I mean, you dealt with similar things. And so I'm just Joe Schmo. Right? There are so many other Joe Schmoes in this country that need encouragement from you two to take your time, to move at your pace, but tell the truth. Come out. It feels so great to go to my kids when we're traveling to Amsterdam this summer and explain to them. They already know the story because I've been willing to a 10-year-old and 13-year-old is to tell them the truth. And when they say, well, Dad, I thought I saw you over there once, and I'm like, well, this is what was going on. It's medicine. And let me tell you about my dyslexia and my ADD. No doctor could ever tell me about what the heck was going on. I just knew this little thing that I was getting from some guy was helping me.
Cool.
And then I ran marathons and ultra runs in the middle of those runs. You know?
Keep telling your story. Keep being you. Tell your story. That's what I, over and over, after going through the LGBT movement, 20 years, seeing it, do that. I came out 25 years ago, and still to this day, people come up, thank you, you've changed my life. I was able to come out because of that. Yep. We understand, by standing here, being people who partake in the medicine, who grow the medicine, who make the medicine, who are advocates for it. We are people. The best advocacy you can do is be the person that someone knows, so that when the cannabis vote or someone who is misled starts saying something, well, I know that my neighbor down the street, hey, the guy who owns that business, he uses that as medicine. You know, my dad, my brother, my sister, they're using it. Oh, they're much better now. They used to be so tense, you know, and all of these things. That makes a difference, and that's how it changes.
I mean, so this is where we take a leaf from the gay liberation movement again. Gay liberation movement figured out that once they actually got the laws out of the way that would have resulted in people being locked up, right, that the next step was to address stigma, right? And stigma is this slippery creature. It's not like a law where it's clear, there's a mechanism, you can change it, right? Stigma is this, like it resides in these long, uncomfortable pauses in conversations, these strange looks that people give you, phone calls that should be returned that are never returned to you, right? It lives at the Thanksgiving table and the Christmas dinner table, right, where people who use cannabis aren't welcomed by their families, okay? And so how do you get that? How do you get to that thing, right? And the way that you get to that thing is by coming out, by doing exactly what the gay liberation movement did, by saying, look at us. Here are our stories, and no, you don't need to be afraid of us, right? And that's so tremendously powerful. So, you know, my ask to every person that has come to a positive relationship with this plant is that moving forward, don't do it all at once. Pacing is important. Coming out is not an easy process. It can be destructive to some relationships. One a week. One a week.
One a week. I
One a
like
week,
that. Just
right?
one a
That's
week.
all you got to do is come out to one person that you have not come out to about your cannabis use, one a week until you knock down all of them. That's all I ask, right? If we all do that together, this stigma thing, it's gone. It's gone.
All right.
I think what happens is there's a lot of whispers. And people, when you start saying, hey, we'll go have a cannabis business conference.
Yeah. Everyone wants to know.
It's still a whisper society or a whisper community when people are on the outside.
Yeah, well, I've been in the gay community for a long time. And the funny thing is, I found that parents, when children were coming, when, teenagers were coming out to their parents or even young adults, their parents are just afraid that they're going to be unhappy, that this means they're not going to have children, that they're going to be ostracized from society. That was the pain. Now you come out as a cannabis smoker, parents are like, "Oh, you're going to waste your life. You're going to end up a heroin addict." That's the stigma we have to change. So when you have successful people saying, "Yes, I partake in this plant. I believe in it," that helps. And each one that you do, each one at a time that you do, makes a huge difference.
I was gonna say, we probably got time for one or two more questions.
I got to answer the worst problem question. Let me just be, okay? So, the worst fear, right? My biggest fear about cannabis moving forward is that this affordable, natural, effective gift of nature is going to become something which is too expensive and inaccessible for most people, right? Talking about the course of medical development and how are we going to make cannabis medicines. All we need to do with this plant is figure out what its cannabinoid profile is, right? Attach that cannabinoid profile to a specific medical condition, right? And then we can grow these plants that are medicine right straight out of the ground. You don't need to build a big pharmaceutical plant. You don't need to invest billions of dollars. You don't need to lock it up in a pharmaceutical ghetto prison, okay? It's very, very simple plant and very simple medicine. So there are ways of creating cannabis medicines that are tailored for specific conditions, that are affordable and that are accessible whole plant medicine approaches. And they really stand in contrast to the allopathic, normal way of looking at medicines, right? So I was with some folks who worked with the FDA for decades not long ago, and I was talking to them about the kind of medicines that FDA approves. For the most part, they only approve medicines that are single molecules, okay? That's why they approved, they approve Epidiolex, which is just CBD, okay? But what we know about cannabis, to an absolute scientific certainty, is that the most effective cannabis medicines have a multiple number of different cannabinoids in them. They have multiple numbers of terpenes in them, and they are whole plant extracted, right? These are the best cannabis medicines. They also happen to be the most affordable cannabis medicines. Again, shame on us as an industry if we don't make sure that every single human being who needs this plant around the world can get it. And the risk is that now that we are making it legal for them, we are also going to make it too expensive for them to afford, and that cannot happen.
So basically maintaining the, building the industry, but also maintaining the ability for the average person to be able to grow a couple plants at home.
So building the industry and giving people access to affordable, accessible whole plant medicine are not incompatible goals, right? They are completely complementary goals. If we really, really want to grow this industry to its full potential, right, what we're going to be doing is encouraging people to use cannabis in these ways, right?
Thank you.
Great.
All right, thanks, you guys.
Being here.
It's up to you guys.